His name, Merlin.
Hello everybody. Hello knights, lords, ladies, sorcerers, enchantresses, and all walks of life throughout the entire land of Ambion. And welcome back to Merlin Weekly. We had to take a few weeks off to focus on Cryptober back in October, but we're back. We're going back into things where we're going to be focusing on the death song of Uther Pendragon. Episode 3, Season 5 of Merlin. So, what's the synopsis for this? Why is this the death song of Uther? Didn't he die in, like, a season or two ago? Why is he alive now? Fuck if I know, to be honest, but let's just go over the synopsis since I obviously know, otherwise I'd be recording this. So after Arthur steps up to be Captain Save-A-Witch, he is bestowed upon with a horn that is allowing him access to go to the land of the dead, where he reunites with Uther from the dead. I think this is during the time that Anthony Head, Uther's actor, was in the show Free Agents. A super perverted boss, by the way, and very hilarious. If you guys do not know that show, I very much implore you all to watch that show. Anthony Head is hilarious in that show. But back to Merlin, where Arthur's whole resolve is shaken from meeting his father, and after leaving the spirit realm, a lot of stuff goes wrong, a lot of stuff is collapsing, various mishaps are falling into Camelot, and it's up to, obviously, Merlin and Arthur to figure out what's going on and to save the day. And then synopsis end. Now then, to clarify things as to the episode to all of you that have seen it before you saw this review, there are a lot of things that were wrong with this whole thing. Mostly Uther and a little bit of Arthur. I say majority Uther and minor parts Arthur because unlike a different show I'm going to be covering in a Nomadic Reviews episode soon, Arthur's whole thing about wanting to see his dad from the grave makes sense. It's been years, but it still weighs heavily on his whole spirit that he wants to say more to his dad that he never got to say to him in life before he took up the crown. That is something a lot of people in that position of power of leadership tend to want to talk to their predecessor or someone familiar that could help them in that whole environment that they couldn't do before. It's a driving force that makes people want to get stuff off their chest that they don't know how to. Unlike if someone were to, I don't know, die about a day or two ago and then try to bring them back from the dead and pretty much ignore all the consequences that come with it. That's going to be a fun review. But to then focus on Arthur's whole thing, he tries to harp on his father's words so harshly that it makes no goddamn sense. Because in story, it's been years since Uther's passing. Arthur has been king for a good long time now. Peace is a giant staple with Camelot because of the moves that he has made. His people love him and adore him. The Knights of the Round Table have never been stronger. The government is very much prospering. There's only one bad guy out of, like, a few rogue kingdoms that just don't agree with Arthur because they think that he's Uther. Which, if you guys know Arthurian lore, it's not a big stretch. But then it's just kind of like, dude, come on now. It's been years. This shouldn't affect you as much since your rule has proven to be the most superior rule of your fathers. And maybe your grandfather. But this should not be a problem because he should know by now that he is good. He has done wonderfully for himself. His marriage is amazing. He has no bastard. The people don't want to see him dead all the time. His knights respect him, even if they try to clown him from all the stuff that he does do that makes him human. He's a good king, but it makes me kind of like, dude, your dad isn't worth it this much. And then we gotta go to the lion's share, oh god, of the problem of the episode, which is Uther. Uther is always a problem. If you guys do not know the staple of these Merlin Weeklies, I have a huge playlist of every single time I've hated on Uther. It is hilarious. And some of my mainstay supporters know my hatred of Uther. You guys can ask them in the comments below, because I'm pretty sure they're going to be saying something wise like, oh, how I've missed this. But it's just, Uther, even in the spirit realm, before he even enters the story fully, is an awful, awful person. His son has done so well with the kingdom that he's been given, not by rightful choice of what he wanted, because Morgana murdered him, and then Merlin had to take the blame for it, but he has done so well, besides the Agravain thing, where everything went perfectly nicely for Camelot. Stronger knight bond, everyone getting a say in the kingdom, flourishing peace and prosperity, good wealth, nice trade routes. People aren't afraid of their king. His marriage wasn't like Uther's marriage where he cheated on his wife, for God's sakes, and then did all this other fucked up shit that made all the problems that we have today. It's a solid thing, and yet Uther's just like, I'm disappointed in you. I turn up my nose and shit on your cake of peace. Now if you excuse me, I have hoes back in hell. Because I doubt that Uther would be in paradise. He'd be in the inferno getting sodomized by pitchforks. That is the sight I see for Uther, in all honesty. Makes me want to do Salem for the next weekly retrospective, but we'll get there someday. So that's the whole big problem of Uther. Then it's just the whole him trying to murder Percival. But don't worry, guys. The actor that plays Percival in this show, he'll come back as a pirate in black sails. He'll be perfectly fine. For the most part. Another review for another time. Tries to kill Gwen, because of course he wants to. Tries to destroy the round table. I'm like, dude, why? It's a nice fucking table. They just got it paid off. They just spent the last gold getting the final touches to get everything engraved. Even the small little dragon symbol in the center there. They had it fully paid off, and then bam, fucking chandelier. What the fuck is wrong with you? And then Shock of all shocks tries to kill Arthur because he's just like, I am still unsatisfied with trying to ruin things that were working just fine when I died. Wait. And let's not forget that this episode also brings out one very crucial moment that I'm going to be using to end off this review, which is how Merlin tries to confront the spirit of Uther and exposes his own identity to him while Arthur is unconscious. That is a very powerful statement, and also one that showcases how little Uther has learned since his passing. Magic has existed in Camelot, has helped make a lot of things for the better, made sure that nobody, and I mean nobody, ended up with any lasting repercussions that weren't fixed up properly because of what Merlin has done. And when he hears this revelation, because of Merlin coming straight for him and act as man to man, he can't get over himself. And let me tell you guys, from real life experiences, if you don't know what that's like when you're an adult, that is one of the biggest pains that you'll ever go through. People that don't get over themselves and just accept when they have been wrong, when they have done the worst things. And that is the sad part. When you don't realize that you've done wrong, that you just try to pour gasoline on the fire to make stuff worse. But in shock of all shocks, this just strengthens Arthur's whole resolution when the whole plot comes to a neat and tidy little bow to make him an even better king, which does lead to some very nice moments I wish I could go over with you guys, but I have to save the juice for the full-blown review. But with all the stuff I can say, it is a marvelous episode that has been definitely one of my top 10 favorite episodes from Merlin. Not because of Uther, because God knows I hate Uther, but only because of the levity that it brings to the discussion over legacy, over how one should carry the torch, over what you would do if your predecessor wasn't happy with what you were doing, even if you were doing stuff better. How you challenge said rule to do stuff that's on a grander scale than what was presented to you when the stuff was happening. Where you try to stand up to be a real man rather than just whimpering down like a little boy. It goes into a lot of good territories and areas that should be in more programming. And I really do mean it should be in more programming, because this was done very well. This was written very well, shot well, choreographed excellently. Actors made everything so nicely done, even with a few cringy moments with bad jokes and why were we talking about poetry. But all in all, one of my favorite episodes. I highly recommend anyone watch this episode, but also watching the other seasons before watching this episode, because reasons. And we will be back with more stuff next week. I promise.
Arthur is a better and more worthy king than you ever were.